Why do you want to go back? The question came during a casual conversation with a middle-aged American couple sitting next to me on the plane to Frankfurt. They were en route to a vacation in Europe. I was on my way to Fallujah. I wasn't sure how to answer. I had already conceded that it was no longer easy to explain why the U.S. military was in Iraq. The surge of patriotism that followed 9/11 carried us into the war almost without question. But now, 18 months later, with casualties mounting, it was hard to see an end to it, and the American public appeared to have lost interest. And yet, hard though it might be for me to explain, I did want to go back. But how to articulate that without sounding glib or bloodthirsty or simple-minded? I told them that I enjoy being around like-minded people dedicated to a common purpose and with whom I share a reciprocal bond forged by shared experience and a sense of mutual obligation. That our common purpose may serve no clearly articulated cause was not the point. As an officer, my responsibility was to accomplish the mission and take care of my Marines. In that order, strategic goals were not my concern. At the time, it seemed like a good answer, but the question has remained in the back of my mind during the ensuing years of war. During that time, it has seldom been easy to discern a link between military efforts and any coherent overarching strategy. Nor, with the exception of a few brief flurries, has there been real congressional scrutiny into the conduct of America's wars. Of course, for such a debate to happen, there would have to be a level of public interest fueled by a sense that the American public has something at stake. Perhaps that is what is missing. A very small percentage of Americans serve in today's military, so it should be no surprise that they feel little personal investment in the wars currently fought on their behalf. Without that sense of investment, there is nothing to drive media attention or congressional action. America is not at war. The Marine Corps is at war. America is at the mall, was an oft-repeated refrain by graffiti artists from Al-Qaim to Camp Fallujah. Hence, perhaps, the curiosity of my fellow passengers who told me they didn't know anyone in the military. In writing this book, it isn't my intention to protest or bring about change, even if I had a remote possibility of doing so. I don't aim to galvanize Congress to provide closer oversight of the nation's wars, although I agree that such an outcome would certainly be desirable. Or to reinstitute the draft. God forbid is how I, and I suspect most of my peers, would react to such a proposal. Though I do fear that the absence of public debate may be an inevitable consequence of having an all-volunteer force. This is simply the story of what it's like at the sharp end, told from one Marine's perspective. It's a perspective that varies widely in context from the experiences of a raw second lieutenant leading Marines for the streets of Mogadishu to those of a task force commander directing special operations forces in a complex fight against a formidable foe. In that sense, it offers at least some variety and I hope a sense of progression. Although I am the one telling the story, it's intended to be as much about those with whom I served as it is about me. Because I am a Marine, and without I hope appearing parochial, much of this story is about Marines, who in a sense belong to a world of their own. With its emphasis on ritual, tradition, obedience, and hierarchy, the Marine Corps is a culture far removed from the society that it protects. Its rites of passage purposefully sever those ties, and by an almost Pavlovian process of indoctrination, transforms civilians into novitiates and then fully fledged members of a fraternal order. And it works. Marines enjoy belonging to a profession whose demands most Americans would avoid. There is something enduringly familiar about their collective personality that I have always found comforting. The Marines who landed with me in Mogadishu were much the same as those who marched on Baghdad, captured Fallujah, and subsequently took the fight to ISIS in northern Iraq. Upbeat, funny, brave, gracious, savvy, and profane. And devoted to one another to an extent that often surprises outsiders.
Para seguir escuchando este audiolibro gratuitamente, haz clic en el enlace de la descripción y podrás escucharlo completo sin coste gracias a la prueba de 30 días de Audible.